Well, hello and a very warm welcome to my channel. I'm Louise
What do you
Savidge.
normally say?
Yeah,
Is it?
I'm Louise Savidge of Louise Savidge
Are you
Muses.
saying all welcome back?
I'll do it in a minute.
Oh.
Let me get on with it. A very warm welcome to my channel. Do you want to write a script?
No, wouldn't dare.
A very warm welcome if you're viewing for the first time, and a warm welcome back if you've viewed my channel before.
Oh, she's a con.
So today I am joined by my lovely son Simon.
Favourite.
We are once again in his beautiful library filming, and today we thought we would catch up with everybody about our prompts for the year. So we chose the prompts
They're in the jar up there.
They are in the jar behind us. Was it
January
or December?
Or December, actually, it might have been. Well, we say we chose them.
Yeah.
Lots of you lovely lot suggested them. They go into a jar and we root around and pick 13.
Yeah, and prompts, reading by prompt has been an absolute revelation to me. It was something I hadn't done until, was it last year or the year before? And I just think it's a really refreshing way of looking at your bookshelves. And who doesn't like a bit of a challenge? So there are 12 prompts, one for each month of the year. You can find them over on
And a bonus one.
Storygraph. And a bonus prompt. Yes, there are 13 in total. And I just wanted to know how you're getting on with the prompts this year.
Well, do we want to go through the prompts in order?
I think we should go on through the prompts in order.
Then
Yes, Simon.
Then we can see where we might be with those prompts.
Yes. So the first
Mum
prompt.
reckons she's memorised them
I
all.
have.
Okay.
Well, the ones I've read so far, which,
This is why
as
we
you'll
want-
see, we haven't quite got to May yet. But anyway,
Well, it's June now.
I know. Shh. So that was a teacher shush, wasn't it? Shh. So
You
the very
won't see how
first
she
prompt.
shushed me and one. You got very cross in our Women's Prize Fiction shortlist video. There was one moment where you got very irate.
Did I?
Oh yeah, I quite
don't
enjoyed
remember.
it. I'm gonna zoom in on it.
Oh.
Well, that's
Thanks.
coming next week.
Mm.
Not that we've recorded it just now. We've just got changed. Anyway,
Why am I gurning at the screen? It's
Don't
because
know.
you're going on. Anyway, so the very first prompt for January was to read a book with a snake on the cover, which proved I thought it was going to be really tricky, but actually it wasn't, because from my point of view, I was lucky enough to be gifted this wonderful, splendid thing, which is Mary Beard's Emperor of Rome, and it has a snake. There's an eagle with a snake in its beak. So that was very easy for me. Shall I talk about this book first? Because I
Yes.
really should have let you go first.
although I'm going to say, very excitingly, Mum and I will be in conversation with Mary Beard. No, we'll be in conversation with Mary Beard. Mary's her sister. We'll be in conversation with Mary Beard in Cambridge.
Yes.
So if you want to come along, do.
2nd of July.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I am beyond excited because I just think she is incredible. And this book is wonderful. Don't be put off if you don't usually read his non-fiction, particularly, historical non-fiction. This is so beautifully written. She narrates history in a way that is thoroughly and utterly engaging. And it's not there was this emperor and then there was that emperor and there was the next emperor. It's not a chronological study of the history of the emperors at all. It's where did they live? What were their palaces like? What did they eat for dinner? How did you become an emperor? What did you need to do to become an emperor? So it's really looking at the sort of the day-to-day reality of what being the Emperor of Rome meant, and I absolutely loved it. And I love the way that it's full of really useful illustrations, maps, everything that you need to kind of accompany the reading to help you to visualize the world that she's describing as well. She's somebody who I think makes classics incredibly accessible to anybody. That's
She's
all
great.
I'm saying.
I saw her talk because she did a talk in Liverpool before Christmas, and I saw her talking about that book, having not read it yet. And I loved the way that her audience was those who are quite new to classics and those who are like real academics, and the way she managed to talk to both of them in exactly the same way and level it, I thought was really, really brilliant.
Yeah.
And it'd be quite interesting, I think, with us, because you are a classicist, I am not, so therefore that would be quite an interesting conversation, I'm hoping. So my snaky book was, well, Suck Up did too, because I had pre-ordered Rapture's Road by Sean Hewitt.
Such a show-off.
I know, before Christmas, because it's one of my most anticipated books of 2024. It's a poetry collection, I think Sean's second collection, although there's a pamphlet first. And it has a snake on the cover, and he writes so brilliantly about queerness and nature and loss and desire and all sorts. So I was very excited for this one, but I actually read this second because when I was in Edinburgh, I picked up The Things We Do to Our Friends by Heather Darwent. And this is set in Edinburgh, and I wanted to read the book while I was in Edinburgh.
So you've
so
got a snake on the spine.
It's got a snake and on the back.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
this one's really
Oh,
going
it's
to
very
town.
snaky, isn't it?
And this cover, I don't know. I mean, it's a really eye-catching cover. I don't think it does this book justice, because this is about a group of friends / frenemies who meet at Edinburgh University. And we know one of them has got quite a dark past. And it's the most was it Saltburn?
Yeah,
Saltburn.
the film, yeah.
I saw so many people recommending books that if you love Saltburn, you'd love this. And I never saw this on the list, but this had absolute Saltburn vibes.
Oh, okay.
It's how people push other people to the absolute limit, but also how some people will totally beguile you into who you think they are. And what I think Heather Darwent does really well is there are two main characters, and as you read on, your opinion of them changes every single chapter, and you can't work out who is cat, who is mouse. I thought it was great. Really
Sounds really good.
Quite rompy is how I describe
maybe
it.
not.
What was the next one then, Mum?
So the next prompt was, February's prompt was to read a book that was a retelling of a myth or fairy tale, I believe.
Just checking if that was true.
He's just checking up on me.
Just checking that one.
Seeing if
Sorry,
I've
I wasn't
memorised.
actually prepared at all. Look at me. Dreadful.
I thought you were going to say it wasn't that.
No, it was.
Yeah, thank you. And I was really grateful for this prompt. Again, you know, this is what I love about it. I've had this book on my shelf, so it's Toibin's House of Names. And I must have had this book on my shelf probably for 5 or 6 years, I reckon. And just hadn't got around to reading it, partly because I've read a lot. It's become very fashionable, hasn't it, to have retellings of classical myth. And so I, you know, because of that, I've read a lot of them. And I like to intersperse them. I like to read other things in between. So I just hadn't picked this one up. And I think this is one of the best classical myth retellings I've ever read, The House of Names. It tells the story of Clytemnestra. So Agamemnon was her husband. He went off to fight a 10-year war at Troy. But before he left, he just very conveniently needed to murder his own daughter. So that there would be plenty of wind, so that they could sail across to Troy to slaughter people. Really lovely man. And what this novel does is it looks at the subterfuge of all of that, the fact that Iphigenia, the daughter, didn't know what was going to happen, that Clytemnestra didn't know. They've just been completely duped by this male world, and yet the men seem to know. And then you spend the sort of period, the 10 years that Agamemnon is away fighting the war, you spend that in Mycenae with Clytemnestra's family, and in particular her son Orestes, who is it a spoiler to say? He's absent for quite a long period. There's a sort of gap almost in classical mythology where he goes off and leaves Mycenae, and Colm Toibin plugs that gap. And I absolutely love this because I think it's really a book about civil conflict and about civil war. And I think he's obviously comes from an Irish background, so I think he writes about that really well. And also the kind of primitive nature of this culture within the myth, but how primitive we are as humans now as well, that we haven't really kind of evolved. So I just thought the relationships in this, particularly, you know, Orestes and his sisters, you know, the way they respond to the situation was just beautifully done. And the landscapes and the sort of the sheer ancientness of the story, I think, are really brought home beautifully.
I loved that one. I read that, and I'm quite a big fan of Colm Toibin's
my
work.
first one of his,
I haven't read
and I really want to read them now
because I love Brooklyn. That's an amazing book, and the sequel has just come
yeah.
out, and that's where I'm trying to not buy hardbacks anymore because I never read them, or I read them by the time they're out in paperback. so it's just ridiculous for me to read. But I have been so tempted to get that because I love Brooklyn so much and I want to go back to those characters. Now, I have a confession.
Oh no, he hasn't done that prompt yet.
Well, no, the thing is, I was so sure I had, but I have been so bad at keeping my story graph up to date. Like, currently, at the moment, apparently I'm reading 23 books, which is not true at all. It's just because I haven't rated them or marked down when I finish them.
Right.
And I was so adamant I'd read one, and I haven't.
Oh no, shock horror.
But
you heard it here first.
The joy of the prompts is you don't have to do them all in one, all in each month if you don't want. It's just a guideline. So I do have to play catch up with that one. So I have failed there. I can't believe I've not read a retelling this year. Well, actually, no, I have, but since. So therefore, can I say if it's a different month? Because I read Lady Macbeth by McDermott, and that was amazing.
Yeah, I really want to read that. I really want to read that. Yeah, cool.
So I read that, and that was a. Because I don't know, are we counting like historical retellings? Because I also read The Tale, which is Mary Scott's. Yeah. Mary Queen of Scots.
I can't remember how it was phrased. It was a retelling of a myth or a
legend, and Mary Queen of Scots isn't really a legend.
But I think it might have referenced a historical.
Oh, in that case, I've also read that.
I think it was quite a loose. Prompt,
but I was going by if we were doing it month by month. So yeah. But in that case, then I've read. Oh, because I've also read Glorious Exploits, which is a retelling of what happened on Sicily.
It's a retelling of bits of Thucydides. So
so I've absolutely, I've smashed it
without even knowing it.
Yeah,
can do it without even looking.
Yeah, smashed. Just a little bit belated.
So March's prompt was to read a book that had been shortlisted or longlisted for a prize that you had never read before. I mean, you hadn't read from that prize before. And I chose Five Little Indians by Michelle Good. I'd heard a lot of really good things, and this was, I mean, it's on here.
It's got loads.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't read the Scotiabank Giller Prize long list. I haven't got my glasses on.
There's also the first novel award winner for something.
Yeah, so
it was on Canada Reads.
Yeah, so it had come up as being shortlisted and longlisted for loads and loads of prizes, and I had heard about this book anyway. Again, one of the things I love about the prompts is it makes you look at your shelves differently, and I did actually have a copy of this on my shelf as well. So I wasn't going out and buying a book specifically for this, which for me is the most important aspects of the prompts. If you're lucky enough to have a big TBR, obviously, libraries, etc., you can use. So this is a story about the Catholic schools scandal in Canada. Where children were basically removed from Indigenous Canadian children, First Nation Canadians were removed from their families and taken to these schools. And it tells the story of at least 3 different children, I can't quite remember now,
I've not read it.
who are taken from those schools, and one of whom manages to escape, one of whom is taken home. Can't quite remember the threads of it, but it's got a I wanted to say David Copperfield, Demon Copperhead vibe to it, in that I felt like the stories of these children and the way they are damaged. It definitely comes with lots of kind of trigger warnings, I would say, this book. The way that they're exploited and the lives that they lead once they've left the school. And the school is somewhere that's really difficult to escape from as well. It's on an island. It's incredibly moving, and it's a bit like reading a fictionalized documentary, I would say, because it charts, the experiences of these children as they become adults and over time. And it's just horrific, and it's a story that is, I would imagine, I haven't done enough research about Michelle Good, but she comes from that background, and I would imagine that she, a lot of what is in this novel is true, in the sense that it will have happened to people. So I think it's a very, very important book. It's very lightly written. It's not, I don't think it's an exceptionally polished piece of writing, but I think it's an incredibly important piece of writing. Yeah.
I really want to read it because I love Canada Reads, and I want to read lots of books that have been listed for that show. And if you haven't watched it, you can catch it all up on YouTube, and it's really, 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 really worth it. Sorry, I feel like a right scruff on your channel because I've got absolute creases going
Well,
on.
you're the only one who's noticing them.
Well,
It's a very good quality T-shirt.
I got this when we were in Italy.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. So the book that I read for that prompt, because I actually did read one intentionally for that prompt, is Winter in Sokcho by Elisa, Shua, Dusapin, translated by Aneesa, Abbas, Higgins, and this won the National Book Award for Translated Fiction, and I don't think I've ever read any of the National Book Award winners shortlisted for fiction or translated fiction, etc. And I had the joy of actually interviewing Elisa at West Kirby Bookshop, and so I was interviewing about her latest book, but read all 3 of her books in the lead up to it. And this is the way I describe this book is it's like you go into a snow globe, into this perfect encaptured world where we meet a woman who's working at a hotel. It's in Sokcho, which is on the border of South and North Korea, and a tourist comes out of season and she kind of becomes his guide, and it's this odd relationship between them. It's this really odd sense of a place that's completely out of season, snowing when it wouldn't normally be. It's normally like a beach resort. It's got this sort of odd fairy tale vibe, and that definitely goes through all her other books, because she's got another one where it's about the pachinko parlours, and but she also, one of the characters lives in a former hotel and her bedroom is the old swimming pool. And it's just this gorgeous, like, that just brings up a sort of fairy tale vibe for me. And then the other one's about a Russian circus. But yeah, this I thought was so beautiful and so simple and so deftly done. I really, 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 really loved it. It's not a book. It's what do they say? No plot, all vibes. It's that kind of book, because there's not really a plot. Okay. It's just the vibe and the feeling of the book. But also at the same time, there are glimpses of what's going on or has gone on with North and South Korea that's quite shocking. So yeah, I just thought it was great, and I'm desperate to go to Korea. Like, I really, really want to go to South Korea. So yeah, that was a treat. Right, April.
So April's prompt was to read a book that had been recommended by a booktuber, and I chose Prophet Song by Paul Lynch, which was, I think, Jen Campbell's favourite book of 2023.
It was definitely in her top 3.
I think it was her favourite, and I only started reading it this morning because I am really behind with the prompts. And I've finished. You know, I think I love reading for prizes and reading.
Mum, what a book to head to after you've just finished Enter Ghost. Good lord.
But I've read, how much have I read? I'm on page 43, and I am absolutely loving it. The writing is exquisite. Again,
it's really propulsive as well.
It's really beautiful, and you're in a place which I assume is in Ireland, because they talk about the Gardaí, the police and things like that. But it's not explicitly, that place. And you're within immediately you're within this marriage. There's a woman who's got a very small baby, but she's also got older children. I think her son is about 16, 17. I think the baby's kind of a bit of an afterthought or a bit of a surprise. And so you're straight inside this very apparently ordinary family. There's the routine of the children, getting them to school, etc., etc. And then it becomes apparent. And just beautiful description of these cherry trees, and his writing is really poetic but raw. That's the only way I can describe it. And then her husband is involved. He's involved with a teaching union, and the police. There's this knock on the door, and he's not in, but she's told that he's got to go to the police station, and they don't really know why. And you realise that they are living in this increasingly threatening political situation where the state is taking control, and it already it's feeling really sinister. So it starts off in the mundane and the ordinary, and then it's taking you to this very dark, sinister place. And I suspect, you've read it, have you? Mm-hmm. That it's going to get increasingly so. But yeah, I'm absolutely hooked. So thank you, Jen, if you ever watch this. I wouldn't have picked it up, I don't think, otherwise. Or certainly not so soon.
Oh, and it won the book because of that saying something.
Yeah, it is saying something. Yeah.
So I bought a book for this prompt, which is not the way I meant to. I haven't read it yet, but it's Brother.
I love
Do
this
You Love
book.
Me? And the reason that I picked it up is because Mum has raved about this book, and it was a very naughty 3 for 2 in Waterstones buy, so I had to buy 2 other books as well. But yeah, I haven't got to it yet. But you raved about it so much, I was like, right, at some point I need to read it. But I'm dreadfully behind and haven't got that prompt
You'll
yet.
gobble it,
But
I think.
this is the one that I will be reading for.
It's
that
such an
prompt.
important book because it speaks about people with severe learning difficulties. So Manni and Reuben Reuben has Downs syndrome, and it's about how during COVID in particular, Manni lives in Spain, but he happened to be in Dorset, and he rescued his brother from this assisted living accommodation because his brother was so unhappy. And it's all a true story. It's illustrated with Reuben's drawings. And if you want to read, I mean, it made me cry, it made me celebrate. It's just a fantastic exploration of how in the UK our social care system really lets these people down. And if you want to be really uplifted and you're on Instagram, follow them, because I just love it when their stuff, at the moment they're on tour in America with this book, and the scenes of Reuben on the plane and just the amount of happiness it seems to have brought him, because he was in a very dark place. So yeah, it's just really life affirming. It's wonderful.
I love the fact that you've just probably preached to the converted because you've told them all about this on the channel before, but also
I'm sorry.
I've just literally had the Booktuber that I got the recommendation from recommending it again, so that was perfect. That was delightful. Right, and then May's prompt was to read a book
with your name in it.
Yeah. Now I picked this, but I haven't read it. This is Noah Can't Even by Simon James Green, who used to work at the same theatre as me.
Oh, right.
So we both used to work at the Apollo Vic on in Victoria, where we worked on Saturday Night Fever, Bombay Dreams, Saturday Night Fever and Wicked. And he worked on the bar and I was in charge of ice creams off front of house. And Simon's like had this amazing career writing way, but this one was interesting because I couldn't find at first any authors with my name that I wanted to read until I remembered that I had this on my shelves. And actually this is a prompt that quite a few people have said they've had a real problem with.
That's interesting.
Because some people who watch from all sorts of countries all around the world can't find authors with their names, and I hadn't thought about that.
No.
So I messaged them the other day with a slightly cryptic, oh, maybe there should
Yes,
be a
you
bit
did.
of a rule change.
We're going to change a rule.
And I wondered if there's ever a prompt that you just can't do for whatever reason, use the 13th prompt as a swap.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So I thought that would be quite a nice way of doing it. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to play catch up, but it was like, you know, I've got quite a, I'm not going to say popular name, but it's not a hard name to find authors by, but I was still a little bit like, oh, Simon's, until I remembered Simon.
It's interesting as well how names are generational. Like, so for me, there'll be lots of Louises of my generation, but very few younger Louises.
Oh, but you could read Louise Kennedy's short story.
I know what I'm going to read.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to read something by Louise Doughty.
Oh.
Because I've only read 2 of her books, and I absolutely loved Apple Tree Yard. And
she's ace as well.
I've got a couple on my shelves at home, so I'm going to pick one of those.
And then this month, just as a reminder, if you want to join in,
because
feel free.
we're not exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be racing through them though. I'm going to
also,
get ahead with them next.
Oh, right, here we go.
No, I am.
Well, I'm not.
Because I'm ready for it.
I'm still going to be very behind because I've got a ridiculous month this June. It's busy. So June is animal, vegetable or mineral. Read a book with one of these elements on the cover. July is backlist book by a favourite author. That's a lovely one.
Oh, that is a good one.
August is a book with an honorific in the title, Mr., Mrs., Dr., Miss. I think I'm going to read Miss Savidge Moves Her House.
Oh yeah, I've not read that. I've got that at home as well.
Yeah, so that could be quite nice. And it's Savidge spelled our way. So in some way we must be related to her.
We will
But she literally moved her house brick by brick. Then we have in September a book with a volcano on the cover. Now, if you go on Storygraph, there's lots and lots of books that have been recommended for each of these. I recommended The Black Mountain by Kate Moss. It's a quick reads, really short, but it's got a volcano. And then I heard about this the other day.
Oh, I know what he's going to say here.
So this is Strangers at the Port by Lauren Amy Curtis, and it's up for a prize. I can't remember which one now, but a prize. Oh, it's up for the Miles Franklin Award.
Okay.
So if you've never read a book off the Miles Franklin, you could read that.
Mm.
Now this book on the back says, Julia is 10. She lives on the greenest island in a volcanic archipelago. Her best friend, apart from her older sister Giovanna, is a donkey. Julia and Giovanna's days on the island are shaped by community, superstition and isolation until the men arrive and a foreign yacht anchors at the port and the vines begin to fail and everything changes. Now, it's set on a volcanic archipelago, so I was like, oh look, there's a volcano on the front. And then Mum said, it's not a volcano.
He was so excited. He showed me this book and like, oh, you could read this one for that prompt.
Well, I'd actually bought you that, but I'm not giving it you
My
now.
first instinct was it doesn't look like a prompt.
Well, you're not having it. You're absolutely not having it. So,
because if somebody asked me to draw a volcano, I'd go like that.
whereas I've got
And maybe
book,
have things exploding out the top of it. Well, it just shows how
I've got a
ignorant
book
I
on my
am.
shelves literally called My Volcano by John Elizabeth Stinsey. And if you look at certain editions, it's got a raven on the cover. Don't understand, but maybe if when I've read the book on their way. But that also has a volcano on the cover. Because that's one that people have found a bit tricky. I like how tricky that one is. I thought Snake was going to be much harder than it was. And then October is a book set in a city, town or region where you've lived longer than a year. November is read a book by an author you've never read before.
That's
and
good.
December
Like that
is a
one.
book with a connection to your personal or oh maybe I'll do that with Miss Savidge for that one.
That's gonna be hard. Yeah, could
Maybe
do.
I'll save that. A book with a connection to
Or
your
something
personal or
about John of
family
Gaunt.
history. Or it could be like somewhere you've lived. Or maybe that goes back to that. That's actually a harder one than I thought.
I think that's a hard one.
So if you find that
But
too
it could be an
hard-
object. It could be, your personal history. It could be an
Or-
object that you really love, and that
or
could be.
it could be a book that you inherited off somebody,
Yeah,
or
it
it
could
could be
be.
a book that you know is somebody in your family's favourite. So
Yeah.
play with it as you will. And then the bonus one, if you want to swap any of those out, like say you couldn't find an author with your name, or say you can't think of a family history, is a book with the word to or for in the title, so TWO or FOUR. And that is the bonus prompt.
Yep.
And actually there's 69 suggestions on the
Oh,
Storygraph,
wow.
so
Oh, that's good.
I need to get looking at those more often. Although a book with an author with the same name as you, 229 books added, but I don't think those names
No,
are
I don't know how
signed.
helpful that will be, but never mind.
But I just
You never
wanted to
know.
mention that, and I thought,
Yeah.
if we do it again next year, which I'm assuming we may.
I hope so. I love it. I mean, I know I'm behind, but I absolutely love it because now the prize reading's over. It will help me choose what I want. There'll be some things that I'm desperate to read that are on my shelves, that I haven't got round to yet. But equally, when you've read something and it's been really good and you don't want to let go of it, and then you're not sure what to read next, it really throws you. I think prompts are absolutely superb for that. Well, thank you for that, Si. It was really good, really nice to catch up because I'm sort of vaguely aware of what you might have been reading.
But also, I thought it'd be
prompts.
nice because if anyone else is out there is like, oh, I've not managed to do them all, and I don't know if I want to carry on doing it because maybe, well, we're not ahead. We're like behind.
We're not.
So,
And it's
that's
meant, the whole point is it's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to make you look at your bookshelves or your local library shelves or whatever differently. So, yeah.
And I need to look at these shelves before I pack them all up and work out what I need for the future ones.
You do.
These are going to be in storage for about 3 months.
I know.
Exciting.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. And thank you, Simon, for agreeing to be on my channel again.
Well,
and
you know there is a contract.
is there?
Yeah.
What is it? What have I got to do now?
Got to.
You might not see me again. Take care,
No, you will.
everybody.
We've recorded the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Bye.
Bye. We press
You mean
play.
record, Louise?
No, I mean play.
Okay.
I've lost it. It's my channel. Yeah.